evening, fellow curious minds of the internet. My name is Alexa, and I'm the resident ooky spooky girly here at Top 5 Scary Videos. As someone who grew up with her nose in a book and spent so much time at my local library growing up, today was a fun adventure for my mind. Sadly, I don't have as much time anymore to frequent libraries as much as I'd like to, but I'm working to change that. I'd like to note, while these specific libraries may not be officially prohibited, today shall more so be my personal opinion on places that should be sealed up and left alone. Welcome to the Top 5 Scary Prohibited Libraries You Should Never Enter. In 5th place, we have Pripyat School number 2. For those who might be unaware of the horrors of Chernobyl, allow me to start today off with a mini sad history lesson. The Chernobyl disaster was a nuclear accident that occurred on April 26th of 1986 at the number 4 reactor in the Chernobyl nuclear power plant near the city of Pripyat. It is one of only 2 nuclear energy accidents rated at 7, which is the maximum severity on the International Nuclear Event Scale, the other being the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster in Japan. The meltdown and explosions ruptured the reactor core and destroyed the reactor building. This was immediately followed by an open-air reactor core fire, which lasted until May 4th of 1986, during which airborne radioactive contaminants were released and deposited onto other parts of the USSR and Europe. Approximately 70% landed in Belarus, 16 kilometers away. The fire released about the same amount of radioactive material as the initial explosion. In response to the initial accident, a 10-kilometer radius exclusion zone was created 36 hours after the accident, from which approximately 49,000 people were evacuated, primarily from Pripyat. The exclusion zone was later increased to a radius of 30 kilometers, from which an additional 68,000 people were evacuated. Following the disaster, Pripyat was abandoned and eventually replaced by the new purpose-built city of Slavutich. Among the buildings that were abandoned were multiple schools, with many of the libraries being still very much intact. The small city of Pripyat had 15 preschools for just under 5,000 attendees. In July of 2019, the Ukrainian president announced that the Chernobyl site would become an official tourist attraction. Immunology experts recommend that tourists wear clothes and shoes they are comfortable with throwing away, avoid plant life, especially the depths of the forest due to the high levels of radiation. Oh, why? Just because the areas were not cleaned in the aftermath of the disaster and remain highly contaminated. Research showed that fungus, moss, and mushrooms are radioactive. Most of the buildings in the city are practically empty, but not the schools. School books and class magazines were clearly of no value to looters, and city residents were more worried about saving, something from their personal property, leaving the buildings almost intact, minus the effects of being left empty over time. As much as it would be fascinating to explore history, I'll wait until it's a little less detrimental to my health. In 4th place, we have a cave library in China. Over 1,000 years ago, an unknown person sealed up a chamber to a cave in the Gobi Desert that was lined with manuscripts reaching heights of 10 feet and stretching over 500 feet in length. These hidden words rested undisturbed in total darkness until they were discovered by accident in the early 1900s when a monk named Wang Yanlu appointed himself as the caretaker of the cave shrines in that region. He happened to be smoking a cigarette in this particular cave when he noticed how the smoke wafted up in the direction of the back wall. He knocked down the barrier and found the hidden treasure, although he couldn't read the documents. This is the only time you'll ever catch me saying a smoke break was useful. Not to sound like a dare program, but don't smoke! The collection is now called the Dunhuang Library, or the Caves of the Thousand Buddhas. Since it was discovered, an entire academic discipline has arisen solely around its materials. The library contains 50,000 documents in at least 17 languages. One of the most precious artifacts is the Diamond Sutra, a copy of one of Buddha's sermons that is the oldest ever discovered, as it was written in AD 868. It was named the Diamond Sutra by the Buddha himself, as it explains that his message will cut like a diamond blade through worldly illusion to illuminate what is real and everlasting. The Diamond Sutra, once again, is the world's earliest complete and dated print book. Even the hundreds of caves, which were carved by hand 1700 years ago, are decorated with paintings all over the walls. They also contain the world's largest collection of Buddhist art, housing artifacts that range from 2,000 brightly printed clay Buddhas to the earliest complete star chart in the world. Before anyone out there jumps into the comments asking, "But how is this scary? Why would I deem it forbidden?" The library contains some unsettling documents, like a manual that explains how to perform human sacrifice in detail, and a contract drawn up for the exchange of a girl for a silk trader's heavy debt. There's also plenty of dark magic, including a book of divination written in Turkic runes. It explains that a boy who finds eagle droppings is a good omen, but if he finds an old ox devoured by ants, the omen is very bad indeed. Not quite sure what it completely means, but I'm sure it has some greater meaning. No one knows what the library was for or why it was sealed and forgotten for so long. Someone purposely forbade access to outsiders when they sealed the entrance shut, but the reason why remains a total mystery. My motto around things that were sealed in history is that they were probably sealed for a darn good reason and should be left well alone. In third place, we have the Paris catacombs. Deep underground the city of Paris are hundreds of miles of tunnels in a complex network that is one of the oldest in the world. Not to sound like a broken record or anything. It's a darker city that few tourists experience due to the high risk of danger. People often get lost. The walls can collapse at any moment, so many who venture there wear miner's helmets. There's no electricity among the endless winding canals, corridors, and crypts filled with mounds of unidentified skulls, which are estimated to be about, only 6 million deceased Parisians. Yeah, only 6 million. Small number there. There are parts so tight that you have to line your belly and slither forward like an inchworm. Only a small section of the catacombs is accessible to tourists, while the rest has been illegal to enter since 1955. I'm not saying you shouldn't explore the tourist accessible areas. Heck, I want to visit those myself, but stay out of the illegal areas. Urban explorers who frequent the catacombs call themselves cataphiles, which I must admit is a very smart moniker. They paint, sculpt, and create other art, while also building false walls, trapdoors, and secret chutes to keep away the cataflics or catacops who try to catch them trespassing. One of these secret chambers is called La Librairie. It has hand-carved shelves filled with books for the taking. You must know a cataphile who can be your guide to even try and reach it, or else risk getting stuck or, lost for who knows how long. As much as I love exploring creepy history, the thought of getting lost in such a cursed place is a type of scared I'm not fond of and don't particularly ever want to experience. In second place, we have the National Library of India. India's largest library is located in Belvedere House, located in Alipur, Kolkata. Belvedere House being the former palace of the Viceroy of India and later the Governor of Bengal. The National Library of India, also known as the Calcutta Public Library, was built in 1883 with over 2,270,000 books, 86,000 maps, and 3,200 manuscripts. It contains 45 kilometers of shelf space and is large enough to hold up to, 550 people at once, making it easily one of the largest libraries in the world. But I'm getting a little too ahead of myself here. Let's backtrack to the beginnings of the original Belvedere House. Located on Belvedere Road, I know. So original, the majestic house was built across 30 acres by Mir Jafar, the Nawab of Bengal, in the 1760s, and he later presented the house to Warren Hastings, the first Governor General of India. Now Hastings stayed there until the 1780s, after which he finally sold Belvedere House to a Major Tolley, until the Major died in 1784, and his family sold the property in 1802. Years later, Lord Curzon merged it with the Calcutta Public Library, founded in 1836. After India's independence, it was named the National Library and placed under the Ministry of Culture and Tourism. Yes, I promise I'm getting to the scary part. Like most ancient buildings, the Belvedere House has a haunted history associated with it. Remember a moment ago when I mentioned Warren Hastings, the first Governor General of the East India Company? Yeah, his apparition still roams about the corridors of the library to find a black bureau, rumored to be located within the structure. The bureau supposedly contained papers proving his innocence during his impeachment trial between 1788 and 1795 in the Parliament of Great Britain. Even though all the charges against him were dropped later, his apparition still comes back in the hope of locating those papers. The presence of his ghost has not only been experienced by the library's visitors, but also by the librarians. They've reported bizarre happenings such as chairs being drawn away, books falling off shelves, someone breathing down their neck while reading, sounds of book pages ruffling, and so forth and so on. That's not the end of the spooky stuff, because the library got a fresh dose of mystery when a secret room was discovered in 2010. The room was, 1,000 square feet with no door or trapdoor and was discovered by the Archaeological Survey of India, ASI for short, during the restoration process of the building. As an ASI engineer involved in the restoration work mentioned that they searched every inch of the walls in the first floor area directly above this chamber, but didn't find any entrance. There is, however, an arch on one side of the enclosure that appears to have been walled up. They had questioned the retired employees about it, but none of them had any idea about the unknown room. And he commented further about how strange it is that such a big chamber could have gone unnoticed all these years. With the secret room adding to the haunted aura surrounding the building, speculation started flying thick and fast. What was the purpose of a large but completely closed-off room located in the middle of a former governor's residence? Could it be a punishment room, replete with, heinous devices and skeletons? Or could it be the room where the Hastings Black Bureau was kept? Maybe it was filled with his rumored, ill-gotten treasure? The ASI posted guards around the buildings to prevent break-ins from zealous treasure hunters and sought approval to explore the chamber. But since it was a heritage structure, structure, permission was only given to drill holes in the wall, greatly limiting the exploration and discovery possibilities. With the limitations in place, all the ASI could officially reach was just a mountain of mud, and they officially claimed the structure must only be an architectural feature to help strengthen the building's foundations. Many still ask why there was a bricked arch if it was never meant to be entered, and also, what's underneath the mud? Interestingly, the ASI stopped publishing all information about the chamber from 2012 onwards. I'm torn. As fascinating as I'm sure whatever under the mud is, I feel like it was boarded up for a reason, and I don't want to risk unleashing another ancient curse in this world. Seriously. Aren't we cursed enough? In first place, we have the Vatican. I'll start this off by saying it's no secret I'm highly critical of the Vatican, and I believe they should be challenged so much more than they already are. They have way too much control and they know it. Their archives have inspired much suspicion and speculation over the years, believed to contain proof of aliens, predictions of the apocalypse, and the Pope's secret stash of adult video. Popes weren't always celibate, just saying. Orgies have been held in the Vatican. The structure contains 85 kilometers of bookshelves, and it wasn't until very recently that the Pope opened up the secret archives to select members of the public. And even that is still restricted to such an extreme that I wouldn't really call it open. You have to apply for access and reapply every 6 months if you get lucky enough to get granted access in the first place. No one is allowed to request anything specific, but they'll be given assorted dossiers of the most random and heavily redacted information, and essentially it's a take it or leave it kind of situation. There's seemingly endless correspondence between the Pope and famous historical figures like Michelangelo, Mozart, Queen Elizabeth, Abraham Lincoln, and the evil German dictator whose name I can't say, to name a few. There are even documents about the trials of the Knights Templar and Galileo. There are letters from Henry VIII in which he tried to convince the Pope to grant his divorce from Catherine of Aragon so that he can marry his true love, Anne Boleyn. Mary, Queen of Scots, pleaded for the Pope to save her life right before she was executed. You know, it kind of illustrates the power that the Pope has wielded throughout human history, which is too much if you ask me. When pressed, however, the official spokesperson for the archives admits that there remains a section that is really secret. No kidding. Nobody has access to this part. No journalists or even the most prominent scholars. I don't care if I do sound like a broken record. It is way too suspicious. And that brings us to the end of today, and once again, I'm only adding to my do not travel here list. I swear the blasted thing only gets longer every week. Let me know in the comments if you've ever experienced anything spooky in a library, or if there's one I should have mentioned. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more from us here at Top 5 Scary Videos.